So I'm going to start with a brief introduction of what addiction means and how it affects our brain. This is an overview of this workshop, starting with the objectives and an introduction, and then some of the neuroscience, the statistics of its prevalence, types of addiction, signs and symptoms, the adverse effects and risks associated with this disorder, and remedies and strategies, some Islamic guidelines with our respected Maulanas, and some counseling issues which will be discussed by Maulana Shamshad Haider, ending up with a dua and some conclusion and take-home messages. So the workshop, these are my objectives: to raise the awareness of what addictiveness means of the internet and its adverse effects, and how to develop some habits and strategies to protect us from the addictiveness and manipulations. Obviously, we are totally connected or surrounded by internet. So there are some benefits of internet. I just didn't want to discuss only the negative aspects, but also there are a lot of positive effects of internet, which we connect with our relatives, friends, WhatsApp, and easy access to information, distance learning. A lot of business opportunities can be developed with internet. Emotional support, counseling services, as Maulana can testify that he does a lot of counseling online, emergency services, social justice work. Even our mosque and imambaras have online presence with Zoom and live stream, especially during the time of COVID. The word addiction means a compulsive use of any drug or behavior despite knowing its adverse consequences. It derives from a Latin word called addictus. Addictus in Latin means to be enslaved by. And people, when they used to be punished, they would be put in chains, and that was a punishment, and that was called addictus in Latin. And there are reports, anecdotes that a prisoner who was so addicted to his chains, he would walk around with chains even when he was free. So it starts as a choice, but then we get so used to it, it becomes our prison. And our modern world has been created with addictive experiences in the name of convenience and efficiency. We all have smartphones. It's so much integral part of our life that we reach for it somewhere estimates between 150 to 300 times a day. Again, the definition of the term internet addiction, it's an umbrella term which refers to compulsive use of internet, which is affecting our relationships, our work, and our health. The smartphone has been described as a modern-day hypodermic needle, similar to the heroin addicts which use it to inject drugs. There's a relatively new book out called The Dopamine Nation, written by an addiction psychiatrist from Stanford, and she has used this term smartphone as a modern-day hypodermic needle. As this picture depicts, a person is surrounded by all these digital devices, and we are turning our youth into psychotic junkies. Now, just to make it a little bit more interactive, I want you to ponder over these few things. When you use the internet, do you lose track of time? Can you show of hands how many people? So a fairly good number of people, including Maulana. Have you ever attempted to hide the amount of time you spend using your internet connected devices? Like little guilty feeling and that kind of thing. Do you find it challenging to spend less time on internet connected devices? Do you use internet to feel better when you feel depressed or anxious? Anybody for this? This one. So, do you have strong urges to use the internet?
If you do some all,
Huh?
if you do all,
Yes. Okay. Does your internet use hinder in your fulfilling your obligations? Work, school, religious obligations? Have anybody missed a prayer because of prolonged internet use?
this or no, delay. You say delay.
Okay. Do you find yourself using the internet excessively even when it causes ongoing issues in your work or relationships? You know, a lot of children, they get so addicted to, they are falling behind in their studies and commitments, homework, etc. Have you stopped engaging in important social, occupational, or recreational activities due to your internet use? Do you persist in using the internet even when it negatively affects your emotional well-being? So, I mean, most of us can ascribe to these things that we are doing, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. And internet addiction has not been defined as one of those DSM classifications, you know, except for internet gambling disorder, etc. Now, there are estimated 5 billion internet users, about 63% of the world population. And out of that, 4.7 billion are active social media users. So over 60% of the world population uses social media. Even like if you consider countries like India and China, there's very significant proportion of the population are on internet. 95% of teens have access to smartphones. And the smartphones is so easy. One of the reasons why people become addicted to anything is the easy accessibility. They reach for it without even thinking about it. So it's mindlessly using the device. Average American spends about 7 hours a day on the internet, which translates to about 60 days a year of waking time. Children between 8 to 18 spend about 7.5 hours a day on average looking at a screen. These are it's hard to read this, but it shows how many active monthly users are on Facebook, 2.9 billion. It's a large number. The second comes YouTube, third is WhatsApp. So this gives you a list of different social media sites. This is just a little busy slide, but it shows certain important things here. Americans' use of cell phone, 89% has been estimated that within the first 10 minutes of waking up, they reach for the phone.
It could be first minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, it's a little bit longer, sometimes it's less than that, a few seconds. A lot of people use the smartphone as a source of their alarm clock. That's why one of the recommendations is use a regular, simple alarm clock rather than the phone. And don't use the phone next to your bed. You know, put it in a separate room and all that. About 75% of the people feel uncomfortable leaving the phone behind. And I'm sure we all can subscribe to that. About 75% of the people use the phone on the toilet. So these are all this, there are various statistics, but this is very important. Like a lot of people are using even the phone, looking at the phone while driving. And it's a source of several accidents because of texting and driving. So the magnitude of the problem is, these are estimates, but this is a very conservative estimate, about 6% of the world internet users, about 5 billion people of the population, 5 billion, are internet addicted, which translates to about 300 million compared to the US population, which is about 332 million. So you can imagine a large portion of people are using, getting addicted. Not using, this is an addiction problem. Now there are some key terms which will help us explain the underlying phenomena behind this addiction. One is FOMO, fear of missing out. This is that human urge to be informed of what's going on, and sometimes the information may not be even relevant, but we have that urge. So it's called FOMO. And there is a term which is called nomophobia, which is kind of new to me also, and it says this is like fear of missing the phone. If the phone is not with us, we feel that we are lacking something. And this is another interesting thing, is called phantom vibration. Even though we don't even have a phone, sometimes we feel our vibrations in our pocket. So this is that's how we are addicted to this. And the term digital heroin, digital junkies have been used. A very interesting thing is this last term called persuasive design technology. Stanford has a department which does research on this called persuasive design technology, how to make people get addicted to social media. And there is a term used called surveillance capitalism. So these social media companies are using our attention to sell our attention to different companies for marketing purposes. And they have a proprietary right on what sites we click and how we do internet, and we don't even have any right. They can do anything with that information that they get from us. And it's also called attention economy. And all the power behind that is because of artificial intelligence. They're using artificial intelligence to detect what our behavior is. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Ayum. There's another term called brain drain. What it is even though, let's say if you're having conversation, two people having conversation, if the phone is next to us, it takes away some of our cognitive attention. It's called continuous partial attention. There's a term called digital fast or detox or digital hygiene, that we should cut ourselves off from our digital devices at certain times. Again, this term is called digital mindfulness. If we are aware of how we use the digital devices, then we can be more careful of how we are spending our time. And again, the concept of mindfulness is close to what our concept of taqwa is, that we should always be aware of God's presence in our heart, in our activities. There is a movement called attention resistance. These are a group of people who found that there was an issue with how people were getting distracted and their attention was being stolen. So they started this organization which is focusing on how to protect ourselves from distractions and reclaim our focus. There's another term called social contagion. And I think if we analyze these terms, a lot of the talk will become a little easier to understand. Social contagion, like we had COVID recently, that was a contagious disease. Similarly, there's a social contagion, especially for the younger vulnerable group. So now for the youth, there are these groups called, or people called influencers. They're influencing them through the social media. So there was a report of a influencer which had that problem with Tourette's disease, which is a tic. And young girls were copying him. And there were like 25 girls were admitted to a Dallas hospital with this problem. They didn't have any problem. They were just copying the influencers. So if he had tic, they were doing the tic, thinking that was a cool thing to do. Now, there's a little bit of neuroscience behind this addiction. The key word here is dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical which our body secretes in response to rewards and pleasures. So all the addiction is due to our production of dopamine. Now, if you see the diagram here, there are a few key areas. The frontmost part is called the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive brain. That's where our impulse control, decision making, time management, all that comes from that area. It's called the prefrontal cortex. And if you go behind it, lower part, there's an area called the amygdala. Amygdala is part of the emotional brain or the limbic system. That's where all our primitive urges, hunger, fear, fight, responses come from that area. So when we get addicted to something, the amygdalas and few other areas secrete dopamine, and that becomes the dominant feature of our lives. Now, the Imam Ali alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad, there is a hadith from Ali. He says, if a person's aql, intellect, dominates his emotions, then he can reach a higher status more than of angels. But if the other way around, if our emotions control our intellect, then we can become lower than animals. So even the modern neuroscience is, alhamdulillah, proving what our Imam has said 1400 years ago.
Kulluhu halal. Imam is giving a basic formula that everything which is beneficial for you, which has salah, which will help you physically, mentally and spiritually grow, فَهَذَا كُلُّهُ halal. But then Imam mentioned that كُلُّ أَمْنٌ يَكُونُ فِيهِ الْفَسَادِ. All those things which can harm you. Now let's see, the science is proving this using this phone for several hours, sitting in front of the social media for many, many hours, staying awake all night or late night, all of these causing fasad. Imam said all of them haram. Okay. Wait for the fatwa. Fatwa will come inshallah. But why you're waiting? Why you want to destroy it? Next, okay? That's one thing. Now, first of all, every time we talk about solution, we need to talk about the root cause. Like I gave you this root cause, one of them is a nuclear family. Somehow need to fix it. Somehow need to fix it. Okay, I'm just telling you this when your children are going to Islamic school, you have your nuclear family. Alhamdulillah, I wish that all the families, the spouse, they don't have any problem, because if they have a problem, there is another struggle the children has to go through in this family, right? Still, being alone, they don't have neighborhood, that's a problem. Now, what's the solution? What's the solution? No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed humans such a way. I think Dr. Saab mentioned about this hadith from Imam Ali, that look, you have, and I'm keep mentioning in my khutbah, you have four energies. You have four energies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave four energies to human, four faculties you can call, right? You have faculty of intellect, faculty of desires, which is shahwat, faculty of anger, which is ghadab, and faculty of imagination, which is Waham, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this for the human, for the purpose. Shahwat, desires, Allah gave this so we can survive. Because if I'm not feeling thirsty, I'm not going to drink water. If I'm not feeling hungry, I'm not going to. But that shahwat, you need to keep it balanced. Ghadab, I cannot protect myself, right? The fever is a sign that my body is reacting. There is something going on inside. The fever is a reaction that ghadab, my body is angry, right? Or throwing out, vomiting. Imagination, with all the creation you have in the world, is because of imagination. But then Allah said, look, I gave you all these things and I gave you this energy to control these three. I gave you intellect. The job of the intellect to control shahwat. Job of the intellect to control your ghadab. Job of the intellect to control your imagination. That's the solution. Let me ask all the children. When Imam Zaman will come, what's the difference from today and at the time of Imam Zaman? What's the difference? What you heard so far from Aimma alayhi salam? Are they going, or that coming generation, they're going to pray more? No. Are they going to fast more? No. Are they going to give khums more? No. What are they going to do? All the ahadith said their intellect will be higher.
Subhanallah.
When their intellect will go higher, Imam will come. So,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
So again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the gym. All this social media and everything, why did Allah allow? Allah said there is a gym. This is the gym. Only people, they will pass this exercise and trial, they will be the companion of Imam Zaman. You want to be part of Imam Zaman? Focus on and work for your intellect. And here this hadith, that's a solution. Imam clearly mentioned. Look at that, look at this sequence is important. And even the wordings are important. Imam said, Imam Ali alayhi salam, please write out salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
I'm sorry, I'm taking this, I'm going to mention.
MashaAllah, very good.
Jahid shahwatak. Jahid from ijtihad. Which means, again, it's not easy to fight with your lust and your desires. Control, have a struggle with your desires. You let's say you're alone and you like to use your phone. It's not easy, right? Like I'm working with some of the children. I says at night, keep your phone downstairs. Give it to someone. That's how you're going to control, because it requires lots of struggle, right? You need to help from your family member to help you to control. Imam said, Jahid shahwatak. Control your shahwat, which is desires. Wa ghalib ghadabak. Even these Arabic words are important. And empower your anger. Control your anger. Wa khalif su'a adatik. Oppose your bad habits. Oppose your bad habits. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah, then He says, Tazkun nafsuk. I'm going to explain more later on, all these four things, that you purify your nafs by worships, by supplication, by connecting with the Imam. Then yakmulu aqluk. Then your aql will be kamil. Then your aql will be kamil. And it's proven by science now. There is a professor, inshallah, I'm going to share with you later on, who said that his research, American professor, his research in UCLA, Los Angeles. His research is that all the time you're going, this society is confusing you between two things. They're coming up, you're after happiness. In reality, you're after happiness. They're selling you pleasure on the name of happiness. They're selling pleasure on the name of happiness. He says two different things. Like you saw that on Dr. Sabi presented that happiness is cause serotonin.
Yes.
And dopamine, that pleasure cause dopamine. Dopamine is addictive by nature.
Sure.
This society is confusing us, putting all this pleasure on the name of happiness. Even like the people, like this is happy hour.
Yes.
Happy hour has nothing to do with happiness. Has nothing to do with happiness. So again, this will require jahd, right? And then aql will come complete when tasmuk sawal rabbik. Inshallah, we'll continue on this one.
Maulana, this last point that you have here, which you don't see it here, is called desensitizes sins.
Yes.
You're watching so many sins that we become desensitized.
Yes, yes, yes. Because again, see now, like I told you earlier, like when I was struggling, I was thinking maybe somehow I can save my children from this boyfriend, girlfriend, from this alcohol, other thing. I realized one thing mistake. My God, the problem is the society is attacking somewhere else. They're attacking, making my child less intellectual. They're making my like all the children in the school. Now I'm dealing with high school and
Yes.
I'm dealing with middle school and high school. I'm saying, what's going on? Like you mentioned, this cortex,
Yes.
it's becoming weaker and weaker.
Weaker, yes.
Just 3 days ago on CNN, there was a report. It says that right now the children in the senior class, their cognitive power is as equal to 8th grader. 30, 40 years ago. That's exactly that. Your cognitive, that portal, like this lobe, is basically becoming weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker.
And another thing which has been proven is there was research on adolescent brains. Children are maturing sexually earlier and earlier.
Oh yes.
And their intellectual maturity is going up and up. So there's a big gap
Yes.
where they are very vulnerable.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they're committing things impulsively and other things.
Exactly. That's where the point is. They're making, again, I'm talking about, I'm not, alhamdulillah, I'm not talking about like but majority of them, majority of these American kids and other things, they're becoming like, their intellectual power is going down, and then the shaitan will attack. Shaitan will attack when your intellectual power is, because your humanity is with your intellect. That's it.
So this slide shows you some remedies and strategies. One is we need to acknowledge the problem. See, the problem is we are in a state of ghaflat. We are not acknowledging the problem, which you think this is a minor issue and all that sort of thing. But first of all, we need to acknowledge the seriousness of the problem. That's the first step. Secondly is gradually we need to reduce the screen time. It's called digital detox, digital fasting, other terms have been used. Address the underlying issues, as Maulana mentioned, anxiety, depression, social isolation, disconnected families, all these issues should be addressed. Set boundaries, set times to check email and our social media. Change your routine. And hold each other accountable for. So parents should be the first role models in this. If the parents are addicted to internet or smartphones and you're constantly on phone, how can you even advise our children to stay away from it? Develop other interests, reading, hobbies, etc. Spend time in nature. Nature walking, meditation, etc. has been advised. Seek counseling or help, which inshallah Maulana sometime there will discuss a little bit more. And one part, the last part is mindfulness. We should be mindful in every aspect of our lives, whether eating food, even when we speak, how we spend time. Mindfulness is a very important aspect, and that's the whole concept of taqwa comes into place. American Academy of Pediatrics has a family media plan. I'm talking about a secular society. They are feeling the effects of this. And inshallah, if we become conscious of that, we should be more careful about how our kids. So I have in the QR code, there's a link to this, and we should individualize these things according to our family needs and Islamic guidelines. This is a ayah from the Quran, which it says, don't be like those who forgot Allah, so He made them forget themselves. Is they who are the truly rebellious. Amana, can one of you expand on this a little bit more?
Go ahead.
So before I get to that, referring to what Maulana was mentioning about intellect, the supremacy of intellect in the human kingdom inside of us. That, like you remember the speech of Hazrat Riwazi this morning, he was also mentioning that the Prophet's job was to awaken the intellect of the people. The people are asleep. A person who is asleep, his imagination is awake, his intellect is gone to sleep. A society needs to be awake. Now, intellect obviously it's a long discussion. Nothing Maulana can elaborate on that too. But intellect has two aspects in it. There's a logical intellect and there's a practical intellect. So you have to logically train your mind to, right, be a better thinker, and also practically be able to apply, which is part of that is social development, part of that is moral development, and because all akhlaq is related to your habits and your repeated, behaviors, and that usually comes from proper supervision in the early years of your life. So some of that we have to leave it at that. This ayat we mentioned, please say salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
So the ayat says, Bismillah, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ. Do not be like those people who forgot Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُم. So He made them forget themselves. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Those are the, how is it translated here?
Rebellious.
Huh?
Rebellious.
Okay, you're off track basically. So forgetfulness comes from us, lack of remembrance. So that means the first step comes from the human being. The human being puts himself in a situation of forgetfulness, lack of remembrance, lack of awareness, which is kind of like going to sleep. And so if a person wants to put himself to sleep, Allah doesn't make anyone go to sleep. Allah, sometimes the effects of his sleep is so deep that this person reaches a point of no return. So Allah will leave him to himself. Like for example, a person who became Yazid, he did not become Yazid overnight. Right? When he reached a point of no return, that's when Allah says, this is something in the Quran also, Nastadrijuhu. We leave them to basically, they are spiraling down the cycle. So it comes at a point where a human basically spirals down and in an unstoppable way. But the preliminary, all the prerequisites are in one's control. And Allah is also, guidance is available, obviously. The inner guide is the prophet, so the intellect. The intellect is the inner prophet of a person, right? Who internally. So a lot of these things, have to do with our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or primarily the core of that is in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Remember this. Allah bi dhikrillah. Allah, remember, beware. Bi dhikrillah, with the remembrance of Allah, hearts find peace. So the order of the sentence also shows how much emphasis on remembrance of Allah. First mentioned bi dhikrillah. That means only with the remembrance of Allah, hearts will find peace. It's not like there are many ways and one of the ways is wrong. With a disconnection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no way to find peace. Obviously, through this channel or through this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person will find better connection with people, right? But the environment, so today's this whole discussion of internet addiction, see, environment and our lifestyle is affecting us internally and for a person becoming addictive in nature. The addictiveness increases because of the effects and influence of the environment. And our addictive behaviors affect the environment in return as well. So both ways we have to check. What kind of environment we are exposing ourselves to and our children, right? And then the impact of that we check also that how is our addictiveness, right? And our, this behavior of self-absorption where we are kind of busying ourselves with ourselves, right, is affecting everybody else around us.
See, this is the ayat I just also put it, ala zikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. And there's also a Munajatul Zakirin of Shaykh Sajadiya. He says, my God, inspire me with your remembrance alone and in assemblies. Now, there are certain...
Maulana mentioned that we give our gadgets over to young kids. I remember I had a friend who had a son who was probably 10 months old. He would FaceTime me out of nowhere. He knew how to handle the Apple phone, pick it up, turn it on, go to the app, and actually find the right person and call. Like, wow. You know, it's not like kids cannot do that, but should we enable this kind of behavior? Should we addict them, make them addicts to this?
An interesting thing, one of the Maulanas I was talking to, a very respected Maulana, and I respect him very well. He says his granddaughter is addicted to online shopping. She will take the phone, and this is in India he was talking about, goes and give me this, because again, shopping is an addiction.
Yeah.
So he says this is a girl 3 or 4 years old, and she knows how to reach for the phone and does the shopping. So anyway, these are some counseling techniques that Maulana can discuss, because again, apart from our religious guidance, we also need something like cognitively and behaviorally. So Maulana, can you expand on some of this?
But going into all of these will take a lot of time.
Okay, just
But basically, you know, relationship wires our brains. Our brains are essentially wired around relationships. That's how the wiring of the brain starts. Then the cognitive section, the higher advanced brain, cognitive functions, that part of the brain develops later and continues till age 25 or, you know, and then we start using that and mature till after Quran is now 40, age 40. Imagine how long that takes. But the relationship part, so the first few years of our life define who we are. What kind of environment, what kind of relationships our parents had. And this idea of nuclear family restricts our interaction with people. Like, there's a lot of research here that American kids, just 2 generations ago, used to interact with 20 times more adults than they do today. Because there were neighborhoods. People used to go around, and we as kids grew up, wherever we grew up, we interacted with a lot of kids. And grown-ups, the environment was safe. Grown-ups were involved. They were watching over kids, and the whole culture was built around raising kids in a safe manner, right? The family's connectedness and extended families being involved, kids knowing the uncles and aunts and grandpa, grandma and their families and all of that stuff, right? But now the distances and how we are spread out and how little actual exposure we get. So a lot of my clients, kids who come, who can visit, they have nowhere to go except to watch TV or play on their phones. Basically, they go out to do what? There's nothing out there. The closest person have to drive probably 20 miles to see. And how do you schedule such a thing? They're not involved in communities. At least we have this strength. We must restore the original, the family system I was talking about, and the sense of community, belonging to community, and that culture where the remembrance of God is applied, basically, where people collectively, the effect of a person reading a dua in a Namaz Jamaat in such a beautiful way inspires everyone, doesn't it? This is a small thing about attending a conference like that.
Sure. So yeah, like I mentioned, Maulana mentioned, I think let's talk about some solutions, right? Does everyone come and explain their problem? What are the solutions? Can we talk about solutions?
Go ahead.
I think solution, it's up to you. First of all, you need to be serious. Parents need to be serious. You need to set the priorities in your life. It should not be those priorities which set by the society, which means just running after money all your life. Okay? You need to have a simple lifestyle. If the sisters or brothers, they're forced, like their habit is just window shopping, you're mentioning that this is my priority, which means both of you need to either work together or one of them work 24 hours. If that's the case, again, you will not have a success. You need to have a simple lifestyle. This way, one spouse needs to be with the children majority of the time. Okay? Second, like I mentioned earlier, nuclear family is the main reason your children are going towards addiction. Break that nuclear family. Create an extended Now, yes, you cannot create your relatives, they are in different states. Okay, fine. Go create an artificial extended family with your friends and other people. You start living in a close proximity. This is my family. My children, every day, they will spend few hours with these few people, few families. They have a same value system. If you are young, you're lucky. You can try now. Make sure that do not create addiction. You are the one who's creating an addiction for your children. Do not create an addiction. When you have free time, there are 3-4 families, they need to stay at one place. Make sure their children, they are playing with each other. Children love to play. They don't demand phone or anything. The only time they're going on phone and the media, I'm talking about the toddlers, like young people. Right now, they do not have addiction. They love to play with others. Create that environment. Create that environment in your subdivision, in your area. In Houston, you can do it. If you're other places, try that. So again, create that social network where your children, they're spending lots of time with them. I was talking the other day, Maulana, with one of the psychologists, and we talk about all these bombardment from all outside, from homosexuality and all the. They says if you successfully instill the faith when your children are young, that's it. Insurance. So in this small group, you make sure you instill your value system, all the value system right there, before it's too late. Okay, so that's for the children. Of course, need to have Islamic school. Make sure your environment is safe up to an age before their cognitive power is developed, like 13, 14, right? That's one thing. Now, for the children, they're grown up children, okay? Again, like I mentioned, the cognitive powers, they're weaker. Need to have programs where they have to improve their cognitive powers, which mean like we started this program
Intertwining
in
roots.
Houston,
The lesson per community.
reading club. That's like to improve the cognitive. Question and answer, question and answer, question and answer. You put them in a situation, they're thinking. Need to have those games where they have to do it. Need them to write something, because now because they stop writing, they stop reading books, right? And that's causing their cognitive powers going down also. So need to create for the elder environment. We, alhamdulillah, at least in the Houston, we have these things that you can involve them in a physical activities. Soccer, basketball, other things. Even for the girls, we have these facilities. Let them do not stay in their home. Make sure, change your lifestyle. Do not let them have a create excuse that they are staying awake late night. That's the most damaging thing. These are the few things, inshallah, if you can do, we can somehow save our generation. Okay, there is no guaranteed 100%, but here.
Well, there is a very interesting thing I was watching. You know, the redwood trees in California, they go up to 350 feet.
Right.
They're like 35 stories tall.
Right.
But their roots are only 4 or 5 feet deep. So how do they survive?
Right.
They survive by intertwining roots. And I was looking at this blog. They say redwood trees do not survive solitary.
Right.
But when they intertwine, the roots become together. They become almost one.
Right.
And it says such a tall tree, but very shallow roots, but they intertwine each other. So they support each other. And that's how they survive. And I think this is one of the lessons we can take from nature to survive storms and all these things. They take help of each other.
Right.
So it just makes the point very clear.
Yes.
Creating this artificial intelligence himself has regretted and have got strong regrets. And even in academia, we are facing if the assignments that are being produced by students is that using that Chat GPT or whatever, or is it it's a whole new world. And so I don't know from an Islamic perspective and among our ulamas and in Hausa, if they are paying some attention to how this AI is going to have an effect on our society and our generations to come, inshallah.
Now, as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, this is certainly there is an upsurge of people getting involved with that, and they're using artificial intelligence even to generate religious articles, and I don't know what the authenticity of these are. And I was listening to one of these fellows who is very much involved with that. He was telling that even like if they can record your voice for 3 seconds, they can 100% duplicate the voice. So they can use it and hack it for different purposes, even modifying religious speeches and all that. So you have to be extremely careful. And the fellow who is, he came and testified before the Congress, they say it's a very dangerous thing. The original guy who invented this and owns this app, he said the Congress has to pass some laws to protect it because this can go bad. It says, I was also reading, by artificial intelligence they can control 1 million drones. 4 or 5 people can control 1 million drones, and that could be another warfare. And very interesting thing that there is a Pentagon and Department of Defense to protect the physical borders. And this is, we're talking about a secular society coming to this conclusion. We need a department to protect our digital borders. And also domestic terrorism in that same context. So, because Russia and all that hacks and everything. So anyway, this is a whole new ball game. They are not even addressing it. There was a bill proposed by one of the senators. It's called the SMART Act 2314. And because the social media companies have so strong lobbies. Take for example the production of Exxon is about 500 to 600 billion, whereas Facebook is about 800 billions. So it's much more powerful. They have very powerful lobbies. So these laws are never going to be passed. But if you read that SMART Act, it's available online. It's very good if it can be implemented that they should put every half an hour restrictions and all that. They're never going to agree with, because this is all their economy depends on that. This is how they're selling the products. It's called surveillance economy, surveillance capitalism. This is the term they use. So this whole society is based on capitalism. So it's not going to. So I would recommend people who are interested, go to this website. It's called Center for Humane Technology. This was designed by some of these guys who used to work for Google and other things. His name is Tristan Harris. It's a lot of resources on that. They also produced a documentary called The Social Dilemma, which is a very interesting documentary. You can get a lot of information on that. And these are some of the resources. And there's a QR code at the end of the talk if you want to download these things.
Coming from the senior point of view, at the time of COVID, we used to have weekly Quran classes for sisters in IC Houston. And then all of a sudden the COVID started in Mahe Rajab. So we have very kind young doctor, Dr. Batul, she's here. She made a Zoom group. At that time we didn't know how to do it. And since then, all the seniors, what they say, sit and be fit stage of life. So we don't have, it's been really good for our mental health, I would say. So internet can be used in the positive way, and we all just absolutely love being in that group. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have like from 2:30 to, and the participants are from Canada, from California, and from Houston, from Dallas, and so we have enjoyed it. And coming to the youth, after college education starts, a lot of problems start in the dorms, and kids having freedom to drive a car and have access to the credit card. And one of my grandson's friends said the mother didn't give him credit card, but he had memorized the numbers of the credit card, so he kept using them. And the mother thought, oh, my son brought a gift for me, but it was from her own credit card. And he had memorized the number, didn't even have to write it down. So thank you very much. So we really enjoy having the internet. I don't know what I would do without it at my age also. And a lot of seniors of our age, of course, we have stopped counting after 59, but we are way over 70s and 80s, some of us, alhamdulillah, over 65. So we really enjoy having that communication through internet or Zoom.
Yeah, it is very important that we use internet wisely and judiciously, all right, because it's a very important part of our lives. We can do online learning from that. A lot of our imambaras and centers were functioning during the COVID time with Zoom, line, so it's very important. But again, it had to be used very carefully because it is addictive.
And it's a virtual learning from Sunday school we had in Houston.
Yeah, but see, after we reach a certain level of maturity, we know how to use it. But some of these younger folks which have not reached that level of maturity, they easily fall into the trap, you know. So we have to be careful how we let the children use it. There's a lot of research done on that. There's some very good books that if you ever want to read called Digital Madness.
We have a 22-acre ranch here, and I would just like to say that I appreciate Marna Farhad Abbas focusing on solutions. One of the things that I, as a technophile, I wanted to be an electronics engineer since I was that tall, have found in the last 3 years is that, number one, a lot of the youth, I feel, aren't being challenged enough. And I'm speaking primarily to the teenage boys. I don't know about sisters, sorry. But I find that even though my son's 4 years old and knows how to FaceTime, knows how to do everything, at some point he just puts the phone down. Let's go outside, let's go do things. He's being challenged. We have sheep, we have cows, we have chickens. We have lots of work to do. Alhamdulillah, there's a brother in the community here, I don't see him. But in February he said, I consider myself Muslim. About a month ago he was praying with me. He's here present in heavily match, inshallah he'll find a wife. This brother's progression was because he was being challenged. In the city, I find a lot of times there is no challenge. Like there's the scholars were saying, there's just no one out in the streets, like in Pakistan, like in India, right? It takes a village. There's no challenges outside of the house. There's barely any challenges inside. So what are they going to do? They're on the phone all day long. So what I would encourage and welcome anyone that wants to experience an actual challenge with actual tools, with actual labor that actually matters, to build a shed, build a structure, slaughter an animal, herd animals, feed animals, collect eggs, deal with animals, deal with the structures, barbed wire fencing, electrical fencing, doing things that actually connect our physical experience with our spiritual experience. I find it's something that's very lacking, and inshallah, if our ranch can be of any help to anyone, bismillah. Thank you.
Inshallah, one day all of us will visit the ranch, inshallah. We will come over there, inshallah. Thank you. 20 acres, yeah, that's the space, right? All right, let me go through like few questions, right? Number one, let me start with sister, right? Can I ask one thing? When Shaitan came to deceive Hazrat Adam, how did he deceive Hazrat Adam? No, he promised one thing. He said, Adam, you want to become eternal? Eternal? And you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, eternity is good. All of us, we have this desire, right? So always the danger is from the good things. Apparently they're like something, some benefit. Always the most danger come from the things which have some benefit. Yes, internet is useful, but if it's not used wisely, it's very dangerous. Shahwat Allah gave us, there is a benefit. Allah says, but do not overuse it. Control it. Ghadab, it's beneficial. Control it. Vaham, imagination. All your creation is coming from imagination, but control it. So the thing is, control it. Knife is useful. We use all the time, like we slaughter animals, we are cutting meat without that knife. But if you misuse knife, that's where the problem. Okay. As far as AI, this or anything, solution is only one. Intellect. intellect. AI, we have so many ahadith, and I mentioned these ahadith in my Jummah khutbah so many times, about Dajjal. How many of you know about Dajjal? You know that, about Dajjal, right? It's coming from, what is that Dajjal? It's coming from Dajjal. You know, gold-plated water. It says that in the end, there will be Dajjal will be ruling everywhere, which means fake information.
Fake.
Fake. Everything is fake. How are you going to distinguish from fake from reality? Through your intellect. Only through your intellect. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just think about it. How worried we are. Why Allah is not worried? Is not Allah powerful? Allah is all powerful. Allah is more kinder than us or not? He is. Allah said, no, understand. This is the gym I'm fixing. Need to cross it. You're the follower of Amirul Mu'mineen. Why you're having a life like an ordinary person? Cross it with the intellect. If you cross it, I reward you with Imam Zaman.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
And again, how to improve the intellect. And you'll get surprised. Like Maulana earlier, he mentioned about very important topic. Sometimes we think intellect is like that. They call in Arabic and Farsi is like aql nazari wa aql amali. Which means a theoretical intellect and a practical intellect. You know what? I got surprised after all this research that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all these worships you have, that's giving you practical intellect. You know why our children, Muslim children, are still much better than other? Because they fast. It's a hadith. Whenever you fast, your intellect is improving. Why? You're controlling your shahwat. What is fasting? Imsak. Imsak. Imsak, which means you're controlling your shahwat, controlling your desire. Immediately your intellect will go up. So again, this generation, if we need to improve our intellect, make sure we are praying on time. There is a reason, there is a philosophy of praying on time. And we are fasting. That's how we're going to counter that effect. All the games and social media and everything which are weakening our intellect. That's how we're going to improve our intellect. Okay? And that's how we're going to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is nothing but an intellect. Your intellect will be connected. Okay? Alright, that's the few things inshallah. Please recite aloud salawat.
Just to corroborate your point, if you may, give me a chance.
Sure.
A little bit on the medical part of it. They say fasting produces certain chemicals in the body, which are called ketones. And the ketones have been shown to be superfood for the brain.
Right. Superfood for the brain.
Yes. And now they are also using fasting for treating dementia and Alzheimer's.
Right.
So what you're telling us from the spiritual point of view, it is corroborated by neuroscience.
Right.
And also fasting produces a chemical in the body called BDNF,
Yeah.
brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And brain-derived neurotrophic factor produces more synapses or connections and also generates new neurons. And so, from this material point of view, also neuroscience is proving what Islam has given us 14 and more years ago.
I feel like that is, a lot of research is in the books and libraries, sitting there. They keep on finding more things and keeping them in the library. And okay, you have access to the library if you have a subscription of so many dollars a month. Research, trillions have been spent on research. And practically, the laws cannot catch up with that because they don't want to. These big companies are controlling everything.
Yes.
And defense and all of these things. They don't want this research to be put to a good use in all these areas, especially when it comes to the importance of faith in our life. And faith should become a culture. It's not, otherwise what is faith really? It's all in your head or what? It's supposed to become, like in Farsi, that Farhan Saudi has to become a culture. The culture of divine culture,
A way of life.
on earth, yes,
Way of life.
which is promoted through all the things that we do. So I think the best thing we have here is to grasp the beauty of the mazhab of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam.
Sallallahu Muhammad wa alihi.
Allah has given us all the practical steps. Instead of, we can continue research, and Maulana, mashallah, Dr. Jafri is an excellent resource. He has so much research. Every time I talk to him, so enlightening. He's always on the internet. Yeah.
With wisdom.
Yeah.
No, listen, I read a lot of books. I know.
This isn't all proven. And the part that we have is more than what the science has proven. So should we keep needing and waiting for the research to catch up with Mazhab of Ahlul Bayt? It's infinite. The hikmat and the beauty and the depth of the Mazhab of Ahlul Bayt, right? It will take eternity to find out all the secrets and all the greatness of this Mazhab. This is something which is the embodiment of this, the personality of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. You want to look at that, so you can keep using this research forever, but this is all very useful, this research. It continues to re-emphasize and prove every single Islamic law, every single Islamic precept, belief, ethical, convention, everything that we believe in or we have read about. Science cannot go against it. It just cannot. Anything that is properly researched on has to come to what we are already practicing, right? But we have to know better. We have to grasp it fully. Translate it, make it a culture. The great things that we have, we preserve them. And those things that we have continued starting to forget, we have to bring it back in our life, right? The small things, for example, the socializing, the niyaz and nazar, and people visiting each other's houses, and
program
this is completely missing in the American society. People, they gather to drink only.
Program.
They don't socialize for the sake of socializing. We visit each other's families. We hold majalis at home. We work great advantage of that. The ziyarah trips and the majalis, all of that. How someone passes away, we all gather. We don't really know how important it is for that one family who has lost someone, that the whole community comes together in the funeral. Unbelievable benefits of that. I mean, we leave the sawab and all of that alone, just the immediate benefits, how much it provides support, spiritual, moral, emotional, and physical support to the families. Those are things we do. We have to, the more we know about Mazhab of Ahlul Bayt, the more our culture will improve. The culture that we abide by, we subscribe to.
If only we read the Quran, we will be able to realize that Muslims need to do the research, not other people. There was a Japanese scientist by the name of Yoshinori Osumi, who in 2016 won the Nobel Prize because he said intermittent fasting prevents Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and diabetes. Why are we not doing this research?
Yeah.
Let me just, it's a very good comment or question. But let me just explain one thing. First of all, when we talk about like European or Japanese or the US people, they're doing this research. Alhamdulillah, these guys have opportunity. They have funds. They have universities, well-established universities, and they get all these support, right? And that's how they're doing it. We need to be extremely careful when we make these comments. The children, they take the comments as Muslim, they're incapable. It's not that because Muslims are incapable. You see, when you go in the corporate world, and again, all the people they used to work or are working in the corporate world, they find that all the Muslims, when they come over here, they're the brilliant people. Okay, only thing is that our countries, because of the corruption and so many other things, they are not be able to provide that research scholar. So we have to be extremely careful That's one of those things when we post this thing and when we all the time sit down and we are like bashing Pakistan or India, they're dirty and all these things. First thing what we are doing, we're creating a message in our young child that, okay, our country is like they're worthless, and because of that, they keep away from Islam, they have identity crisis. That's one thing. But again, I 100% agree with you. That's something, that's a miras from Ahlul Bayt. We should have done that. Again, I wish we had that saleh and pious government. Let me just say last few things what we learned from pandemic. Solution, because I'm still focusing on solution. What we learned from the pandemic. There are two things you learned from the pandemic. When you did not have solution, they didn't have vaccine, what they did, they emphasized on quarantine. Until and unless you have solution, you emphasize on quarantine. But then you need to develop vaccination. The vaccination of all this problem is intellect. Intellect. Once you give your child intellect, I guarantee you, whether there's AI or anything, it's not going to get effective because he has intellect. He will distinguish from fake from the facts. Okay? Trust your children. I'm working with the children. Our children are very good, mashallah. Only problem is we don't know how to train them, to upbringing them, how to help them to become more intellectual. Please say Allah.
You can give us a take-home message.
Yeah, no, I want to tell about this Iran, the research in nanotechnology.
Yeah,
Iran is like in the topmost countries who's doing research on nanotechnology. And it's been used for COVID vaccine, diabetes treatment, and all this sort of thing. The foremost nanotechnology scientist in the world, her name is Jackie Ying. She's a revert to Islam, and at age 31, she was the youngest full tenure professor at MIT. That's when she converted to Islam. And if you go and see her picture on the internet, she's in full hijab. And she said, what made you convert to Islam? You know, people at that academic level, it's very hard to express their faith. And she said, the scientific facts in the Quran and the simplicity of Islam.
Right.
And Singapore government, which is a very secular type of government, they don't promote religious things. They established an institute for her research. And if you see the pictures, most of the ladies who are working with her wear hijab. So her name is Jackie Ying, and Iran awarded her the Mustafa Prize. Iran gives about 6 prizes for Muslim scientists in the world. Each prize is worth, with all those sanctions, $750,000, $750,000, more than the Nobel Prize. And Jackie Ying was awarded this prize, and she went to Iran, Tehran, to accept this prize. So, I mean, we have all this talent. We just have to have a positive frame of mind and work hard. She said she works 10 to 12 hours. And if you is on internet, you can see a picture.
We should not lose sight of the fact that internet addiction is a mental health issue. So which means that our mood affects it. Or how our nervous system is working is affecting this, or positive, or so our life experiences, our emotional health, right, contributes to these things. They drive us in a direction, right? So yes, we have to train our intellect, but the fact is, if for example we have had crash or strain in our lives, like abuse or trauma, or for example issues with our mood, like it's very easy to know for a person if I'm depressed or not. Very easy. You don't need to read books to find out. Just ask yourself. If you have anxiety, you know it. So we really need, so that should not be neglected. That is something that's important part of our life. Our emotional health is very important, because that may be fueling this, that may be contributing to someone's addiction to anything, something, gambling, whatever it is. So that if we take care of our whole self, inshallah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Mujahid Zadi, and I'm just very amazing topic, first of all, and thank you so much for all the comments and for our ulama to dive into this difficult topic. I've been in the software industry for last about 19 years. I've been in corporate, been software for, developing software for a long time. And even before social aspect of internet came along, I was on screens for a long time. So I've seen it even before the social media actually became social media. So just coming from that angle, when we start saying internet addiction, I personally think that the term is a little bit loosely we are using it. Just to let you know from where I'm seeing it as. Given where I am, my lifestyle is, with kids and family. In the morning, if I start my day, I cannot work without a computer, on screen from 8 a.m. to about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, just because of work. So that is just literally work. And then I was reflecting on my 7, 8 days before coming here to the conference. I was reflecting how my 7 or 8 days work. So I'm just going to share it with you. Probably you guys can, look at it how your days work. But for me, it was after work. It was more about getting kids registered in the summer camp, getting ourselves registered for the conference, getting ourselves registered for tickets and stuff, planning. Then my wife, for example, is telling me, oh, we don't have groceries, so let's order something. So I was looking at what I was doing outside of my work, and I figured out that in the evening, outside of entertainment, I'm all doing my activities which are actually pertaining to my lifestyle. So no entertainment, but yet you are actually working, you're having the screen ready so that you can actually get your things done. So what we need to really understand and realize that addiction is not an addiction if your lifestyle is like that. And where we are going as a society, we have changed the gears here, the society has changed gears, and this has become our lifestyle. We accept it or not, this is our lifestyle going forward. What has happened in the last 4 years is what was supposed to happen in 20 years. COVID basically made it 10 times faster. Companies that were survived, I work for a corporate company that actually survived the COVID just because they were ahead of the game when it came to online ordering. So I just want to call that out, and just to, of course, I'm not making any an amazing discussion, but I just want to say that think about it in a way of your lifestyle now. Where we are going with this, we need to change the way we are thinking and having our lifestyle. So one solution, Maulana, you talked about solution, right? So one solution that I have seen that has worked for me, or it has been working for me a little bit, I'm going to share it, is that after work, I spend an hour to get my things done that I need to do, in the evening. And what I try to do is when kids are home, from their school or from their, summer classes, in the evening, I try to not have my phone or screens for the, when they are home, when they actually come back home from school. In the evening, we go out for example, physical activity. That we have mentioned it, but that is the only way I have seen that I can stay away from screens when I have something physical activity going on. So we go for basketball or swimming or something like that when we are home or when kids are back home. So that's the only way it's working, is when I stay away from it, I have something, an alternate to work with, like a physical activity. Apart from the Majlis day, Thursday or Friday, or apart from those things, I'm talking about more of a family activity that we are trying to do. So that physical activity has really helped us. Just sharing with the group.
So let me, good points from the brothers. I like to answer some of these.
Sure.
Right? What's your name, brother? Mujahid. When the first time you used computer, how old were you? 17, 18, right? Right. Their cognitive mind is properly developed. If you gave them and make this habit for them, then it's, how old are your children are right now?
13, 9.
You're very lucky. Just look at that right now. I'm also involved in middle school and high school in Ohadi, right? And I'm dealing with so many other children. I'm now realizing those children, they are more involved with the social media, their cognitive power is going down, 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 down. Okay, so the whole point is, we should not confuse. No one is saying that internet is not useful. No one is saying that. What I'm saying that up to their cognitive powers get developed, have quarantine. And make sure that somehow use those techniques to improve their intellect. And by the way, you and we, when we grow up, we have some hardship. Hardship also lets your mind develop sooner. Right? That brother mentioned earlier, if you give them challenge, they grow. Right? So no. Our comparison with the children is not apple to apple comparison. These children that they're growing up with a golden spoon with their mouth, right? No, and on top of that, we are giving them 3 hours, 4 hours of internet and social media time. That's really going towards addiction right now. Okay.
That is a very good point. I think for kids, separate, this discussion is amazing. I was just calling up as a adult, as someone like a parent. It's very hard to move up. As I mentioned, I didn't really have any entertainment as such for the day I'm spending. But yes, you're exactly right. For the kids, it's very difficult at that age to understand what is right and wrong.
Exactly.
To develop that sense, it's not right. 17, 18, and after that, probably kids have grown up that much. But before that, definitely very difficult.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask from everyone. Why, when the boy become adult, which age? Let's say 14, right? Fiqhi point of view, 15, right? Right? Yeah. That's an indication at that time, supposedly, that cognitive mind is developed now. So that's the quarantine time. After that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now I can trust you with ahkam. Now you have intellect, then I'm going to talk to you. And I'll give you this responsibility that you can handle salat, you can handle other things. Before that, you don't have anything. Our problem is that when we give them, because of our life, the lifestyle I'm talking about, that we should not make ourselves so busy with a nuclear family that we have no choice but to hand over that phone or TV in front of them. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So we need to have a quarantine for the children, provide them other activities. Every time problem starts when we leave a gap. Fill the gap. Fill the gap. Like that summertime is coming, it's dangerous. Because now they're not going to school, right? So again, fill their time with positive activities, inshallah, with that. Thank you very much. Jazakallah, inshallah. Thank you.
So you said at 14 we introduce them?
No. I'm saying let them, because right now, because of their easy and relaxing lifestyle, it's also challenging now, right? That tough lifestyle like this brother is talking about, that's needed somehow. We have to intellectually develop some activities for our children, so they do some physical work, something. For the boys also. Send them to the ranch. I'm gonna drive to your ranch one day, inshallah. So again, let's start from the bottom. Ideally, in my humble opinion, which I'm discussing some of the experts, they're saying create that special village and save them from all these other social media and everything. Give them physical activity, everything, so their cognitive mind is developing, and gradually introduce them. Gradually. Again, do not include them before a specific age. We are not discussing, and again, we do not have a data, I can say 14 or 15 or 13 or 12. But again, we realize that this child is really growing up intellectually. Now it's the time, and he can distinguish between right and wrong. Then I'm going to give him, right?
Now, Maulana, there's another term they use. Don't use it as an emotional pacifier.
Right.
You know, a lot of times we do that to just keep them engaged with some activity.
Yeah.
Substitute some good activities. Nature walks, nature immersion, all these terms are using, going to nature and other things, you know.
But the doctors, the problem is our lifestyle the way it is right now.
Yes.
We are so busy, husband and wife, they are so busy, they don't have time.
Again, we have to prioritize.
Both of them are working, right? When they're coming home, they're exhausted. They don't have a time, right? They're relying on someone else, babysitter or someone else. And babysitter, that's a job, right?
Yes.
No, we need to change our lifestyle. That's what I'm talking, lifestyle, which means we need to start living simple.
Simple lives.
Simple lifestyle. We cannot afford to live like an American, like all this like everyday shopping, because that everyday shopping means more financial responsibility. You need to go earn more. No, be simple life.
We have only a few minutes.
We have
only
Time is over.
Comment?
4:30. We have to finish.
Teenagers?
5 minutes more.
Okay, let me get teenager first.
So, my question was more of like I just turned 21, and so I can clearly remember how I felt like as a kid growing up, and then also I'm understanding like, oh, this is what people, parents are having to deal with. So my question is more on like the kid side, where I would be like, if as a kid, like my parents would have all these restrictions and stuff, and I would never understand how how they were so strict, or they were like, oh, they're gonna do all this and stuff. I've been finding that it's like luck of the draw, or like basically, in my mind, I'm like, oh, maybe it's just Allah that kind of saved me, in terms of like, oh, I had the like akal to keep with my faith and keep with trusting my parents and stuff. But there are some people like, they'll not. I don't know if the communication barrier is a thing or something, but like with technology and with like restrictions and stuff for kids, if they're not like properly explained or justified to the kid will not be able to follow it like correctly, because as a kid they're understanding and developing their logistical system. So their logistics are skewed by home and school. And I know like people here are like probably sending like kids to a Hajj, which is a great environment to have like school like environment, but I grew up in public school. So I went to a whole public school environment, and I didn't like, experience the Al-Hadi environment. So like, I had like the complete opposite experience, where I was just, there's so much like American like influence in school, and I would go home to a completely Islamic household.
Sure.
And so that was my question for people who are growing up in like a public school environment, where they have the influence of American or more modern influence, modern mindset. How do like upcoming parents, for example, how would you tell them to tackle or like be patient with the kids in terms of that aspect?
Sure. Let me.
Last question, I think.
Okay. First of all, excellent question. Thank you very much. Excellent comments and question. Now, I told you that we need to learn from this last pandemic. What happened? Pandemic, the first phase was quarantine, restriction. There's so many people that got rebellious. Right? They said, I'm not going to do it. Right? And there were literally fights. You know that fights in the plane. I'm not gonna wear the mask, right? Let me tell you one secret, and that's missing. Majority of the people, from teachers, from ulama, we're not realizing one thing. Human is not designed to be restricted. Allah gave them free will. That instinct, alhamdulillah, some of the children, because their parents, they create that very loving environment, and again, strict environment. That's why, alhamdulillah, they got saved, like yourself. But then they have this restriction. They don't have the loving environment in the home. They have challenges and temptation. They break big time. They come out from the college and they bust out. Some of them are becoming atheists, right? So that's why I said, like all the time when we go, they say solution is keep monitoring the gadgets of your children. No, that's a temporary solution. It's not going to work all the time. The solution is only one. Make them intellectual. Let them from early on, let them know what's right, what's wrong. Before other people will teach you. If you know from the first 7 years what's right and what's wrong, and you practice that in 7 to 14 years practically, then you're ready. Okay? So all the young people of your age, when they're going to become, inshallah, future parents, that's how they have to do it. First of all, you need to work hard right now, all of you, so you have this very financial stability in your house. So not both spouses are supposed to work. One spouse is dedicating herself or himself for the children, right? And then you're creating that special village with love. You're teaching them, right? And with intellect, that look. And again, you introduce them with the nature. Islam is just a natural religion, okay? And that's how we can save, and there is no other way. There is no other way we can save. We have to make them intellectual, and they have to decide themselves later on what's good or what's bad for them. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed us, right? All right, inshallah. Thank you.
We have 1 minute to tea break, so if it allows salawat, if those who want to stay and have, there are 2 questions still remaining. Please, just questions, no long term on this question, and then we move on. This is the last 2, no more.
I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to comment on your thing that said when to introduce internet to our children. Well, I'm an ex-educator. I've been retired for 4 years. And I have to tell you that our pre-K, and I'm a public school teacher, but I also saw it in private schools for my nieces and nephews. And we were already doing that. Starting in pre-K, which is 4, and we had a Head Start program at my school, which starts at 3 years old. They were already putting these kids on internet. And by the time my kids at my school were 4th and 5th grade, we didn't have textbooks. I mean, I was a 2nd grade teacher, and they were already filtering our books out. No textbooks, no workbooks, not even pencil and paper, because my kids had to use, when it was writing, they had to pull that little metal thing you got right there. And that's where we did our writing, you know. I'm sorry, that's what I call it.
That's right. That's right.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and these kids that I see here, including my granddaughter right here.
She's good. She's a good kid. You're so lucky.
Getting her to open a text, this is not to embarrass her or anything, but getting her to open a textbook, you're pulling hair and teeth. You know, we bought lots of books for her right here at this thing. And when we go home, they're going to put on a nice bookshelf. Because when I say, well, remember those books we bought for you? Oh, I didn't know how. You know the excuses parents, they all make. But I just want you to know that we were already there. My question is, how can, I can't stop it, but how do I memorize it, you know, lesson it, make her understand that that's not the one and only thing for her to get information out. That's not her one and only entertainment. That's not her one and only friend. She's an only child with 3 educators in the household. And when the pandemic hit, it took all 3 of us to get her through 2nd grade and 3rd grade. She'll be going to 5th grade next year.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
And when one of us got frustrated, the next one took over. When that one got frustrated, the next one took over. Right. I mean, we're 3 adults with 1 child, and we were up to here during that pandemic trying to get her through school, and it was because we had to use that. No books. And it was so hard. And as an ex-educator, when I retired, I cried because I I didn't want to leave education. But I did because my husband got sick and I had to quit. And then when the pandemic came, I was like, oh, thank you so much, God, that I'm not teaching. Because when I kept in touch with my fellow teachers, they were saying, Vaza, you ought to be glad you're not here. So I want to know that we have our struggles during the pandemic, and it continues. So I need these solutions,
Inshallah.
so we can still keep helping her.
Excuse me, sir. You know, what she was telling is true. They're teaching kids at a very young age with media and all that. And the American Academy of Pediatrics, doing a lot of research, kids who are exposed to, they develop attention deficits. And when there's no penman skills now, they're not writing all these things. So that's also affecting their brain development. So it's not the ideal way to just expose them to internet or smartphones, or even Islamic, Maulana mentioned, of that you should rather read books and spend time with them than leave them to the exposed to this media. Now, I think we have.
MashaAllah. And loud salawat for this child. She is a bright child, MashaAllah. You're so lucky to have such a great grandchild, right? MashaAllah. Allah Muhammad wa ala. I just want to give a comments on that. You probably heard that time to time in IEC we talk about family center, family center, family center. That's exactly the concept is this, family center. Somehow we bring all these children at one place, inshallah, so they grow together. Thank you.
عليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.